Okay, so by the end of this video, we'll have a Telegram bot that is supercharged with our specific content and is going to be able to answer questions that our community may have. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll go to the shell and we're going to install the Python Telegram bot. Okay, so this was a little bit quicker for me since I already had it installed. We're going to import some logging features. So we'll be able to essentially debug if anything has gone wrong. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to go to the bot folder on Telegram and essentially create a new bot and get a key, get an API key. So I've done that already here. So you essentially just send in this new bot command and it's just going to ask you a couple questions like what do you want to name the bot and what do you want the bot's username to be, right? And then it's going to give you an API token that you want to save. Once you have that API token, we'll go back over to Replit and we're going to add it into our secrets here. You just add it into your secrets here and then we're going to be able to use it right away. All right, so the next step is we're going to import a couple of things from the Telegram library that we just installed. So let's say from Telegram, we're going to import update. We're also going to import from their extensions. We're going to import the application builder, and then we're also going to need context types, and we're also going to need a command handler. Okay, so in our main function, we're going to create an application. So this application builder is essentially a pattern that takes care of a lot of the underlying components for us, so we don't have to really think about it much. We'll get token secret that we just created, and then we will build this application. Okay, so now that we have an application, we need to give it some commands. We'll create a hello world command that essentially will just return some text when somebody sends the start command. Okay, so as for the context, it essentially contains information from the Python Telegram bot, the underlying components that the application builder has kind of taken care of for us. Okay, so if someone sends us the start command, we want to just reply to them with a message. We essentially use the send message function and we're going to send it back in the chat that they sent us the command from. Okay, and then what we're going to send them? We're going to send them I'm a bot. Please talk to me. Okay, all right, so now we've defined what happens when someone sends our bot a start command, but we need to assign this command to our application. So the way that we do that is we add a handler, and the handler is going to be a command handler. And the command is going to be start, and if someone sends us a start, we will handle it with our start function that we just created. Okay, looks like I made a little typo up here. I need to add an extension. And then after we've added the command, we essentially have to start the application. And we can do that by using the run polling. We can use that by doing the run polling function. This essentially will just initialize the application and then it will wait for Telegram messages to come in. So I think that's all we need, and now we can click run. Okay, so now that our application is started, let's go and find our bot. So test, so here it is, and we'll click start. Sweet, so it works. We said start and it says I'm a bot, please talk to me. Okay, so now that we have our basic bot, we can stop it. Now we're going to essentially supercharge it with the power of OpenAI and LangChain. All right, so we're going to install a few things. So install OpenAI chain, 5 CPU, and then we also need 2 tokens. All right, we'll let these install and I'll be right back. All right, so now after those are installed, we're going to need an OpenAI API key. Okay, so you'll have to go to platform.openai.com/API keys. From there you can make an account and then make an API key. Once you have that, we'll come back and we'll put it in our secrets here. Right, I went and got my API key and I'll save it as OpenAI API key. So now we have our OpenAI API key. Next thing that we need is we're just going to need some sample text to give OpenAI some context on, so we can work with that. We're just going to use some State of the Union text from 2022, which a lot of tutorials are using. So we're going to upload a file. So the way that we're going to do that is we're just going to drag and drop in the State of the Union text. I'll also make this available on my website for you to download as well. Okay, so our next step is to essentially create a vector database where we can break down this super long piece of text into chunks. So if you ever used ChatGPT before, you know that if you try to paste in a long piece of text into ChatGPT, you're going to be running into these token limits. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a new command, and this command will essentially handle loading in this State of the Union text. All right, so we're going to call it load, and we're going to make a new function called load. All right, so it takes the same arguments as our start function, right? And we're going to create a global variable called database, right? Okay, so from here, we're going to create a text loader. State of the Union text. All right, so this text loader comes from LangChain. So we're going to need to import that text loader. Okay, sweet. All right, we've got our text loader and we're importing our text loader. So, okay, so what this essentially does is read this plain text file and it grabs all the text from the loader. So now that we've defined our loader, we're going to actually load them in. And then we get to define how we want to split up that text. There are many text splitters available in LangChain, but this one will essentially just be a simple one that breaks the text up in chunks of 1,000. Overlap. Okay. Now to actually break everything up, we're going to call the text splitter and we're going to split the documents that we have. All right, so we have to go back up here and now we have to import our text splitter. So it's going to be character text splitter. Okay, we've got our file, we've split them up. So after we've split up our documents, next thing we're going to do is load it into the vector database. And the vector database essentially allows ChatGPT to quickly pull out the chunks that are relevant to the question that someone might have. So we're going to be using the FICE vector store. So we'll call our global database and then we'll essentially create the vectors from our documents. And for this example, we're going to be using OpenAI embeddings, which we need to import as well from LangChain embeddings.openai. We'll import embeddings. Okay, sweet. All right, so that's all we need to tell the user that it finished loading. We'll just copy this. And instead of saying, I'm a bot, please talk to me, we'll say document loaded. Okay. Oh, looks like I spelled application wrong. All right, so now that we've loaded in the documents, the next thing that we'll need to do is essentially handle a question from a user, and then we need to query our database and get the relevant document and then return the answer to the user. Okay, so to do that, we're going to need to import, finally, our language model. All right, so now we add our handler for queries. So we'll call it query, and then let's make our query function. All right. Okay, so when someone sends in a query, we want to search our database for documents that might be able to answer that question, right? So which docs answer those questions, we're going to pull from our database, and we're going to do a similarity search. And what's their query? Their query is going to be stored in the update.message.text. And how many documents do we want to pull up? I think the default is 4. And from here, we're going to load in LangChain's question and answering chain. So we'll go QA chain, which one needs to import? We'll do from LangChain dot change the question answering the load QA chain. Okay, so in this load QA chain, what do we need? We need a language model, and the language model that we're going to use is OpenAI. And for the chain type, we're going to say use all 4 documents and stuff it into the language model and try to answer our question. Okay, so to get the results of our query, we're going to call the chain, and our input documents are going to be the most similar docs, and our question is going to be the query from the user, and we're going to return what's true. Okay, from there we're going to parse the output, and we're going to grab the answer or the output text. All right, so now that we've got the spelled update wrong. So now that we've got the answer, we'll essentially just send the message back, right? So instead of saying document has loaded, we're going to reply with the message. All right, So I think that's all we need. Oops, looks like I made a typo earlier. I forgot to add in documents for the split, and then I also had a typo for similarity search. Okay, so we'll go open up our Telegram bot now, and we'll start up the bot again. Make sure that's still working. Okay, now we can load our documents. All right, sweet, it's working. And then a common question that gets asked is, what did the President Jackson? All right, so what's happening behind the scenes is this query is being searched in our database, and then the top documents are being returned, and then essentially our question is being answered here. All right, amazing. So we have a proof of concept bot now that we can build upon. So exactly what are the next steps? There's many things that we can do now, and that's really where the beauty of LangChain comes in, where a lot of these components are modular. So like for our language model, we didn't need to use OpenAI. There are many open source large language models now. We can use a different text splitter for a particular content. And right now, there's no conversational memory. So when we ask it a question, say, what did I just ask? It won't know because we're not passing in any conversational memory. Yeah, see, it doesn't have any context of this is a conversational chain. This is just a simple, basic questioning and answering chain. Right, so you can see this can get very complicated. But if you wanted to incorporate this into your community, you would essentially need to scrape all the data of your content, your private courses. You would import it into this vector database. And then when anyone from your community comes and asks a question, this bot can just pull from your body of knowledge and just answer your question without you ever having to be there. All right, so that's it for this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it.